Welcome to another episode of Medicare Matters with Mackenzie Anderson. Today, I'm joined again by Adela Cochrun of the Cochrun Group.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun last time.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we do. We know how to have fun, but also we can get serious. So today we're going to be talking about something that's called an annual notice of change, or the terminology that we use is an ANOC. So if you hear us refer to it as an ANOC during this podcast, that's what we're talking about. It's just easier to say than annual notice of change. So, Adela, can you tell us a little bit about what makes up an annual notice of change and what it is and when people usually get them?
Yeah, so usually they'll get them sometimes a month, maybe a month and a half early
Before,
before AEP,
yeah.
before the annual enrollment period. And it goes out from the carriers that plan is on. So let's just say, Mackenzie, you have a plan with said carrier, and they're going to send you the annual notice of change for that specific plan. And it's going to include any changes that they
hmm
make, whether it's copays or new networks or anything like that.
Premium changes,
Premium
drug
changes,
pricing changes. Yeah.
yes, formulary stuff like that, which is very important
Mhm.
to seniors and people who are on these plans to kind of anticipate what they're going to get next year.
Right. And they do come in the mail.
Hmm.
And I would say, excuse me, the majority of people that I talk to aren't aware that they get them. So if you, in your plan preferences, you chose to get things electronically, then it will be sent to you by email. If you choose to get it in the mail, it will be sent to you in the mail. Now, important to also remember that if you choose mail or choose online, it is always available in the member portal.
Exactly.
So it is really important to keep an eye out for these, especially as we move forward. I think for the next couple of years, we're going to see more changes than not.
Yes.
And so it is incredibly important to look out for it and actually read it.
Hmm.
And so we're going to explain, how to read it, what you should be looking for, and what to do with this information. So you'll get your ANOC by September 30th of the year. Now, in terms of the changes for next year, so right now we're in 2025, we're looking at 2026. When can we talk about those changes?
Um, as an agent,
As an agent.
as an agent, we can talk about those changes on October 1st.
And then we can
So,
submit any sort of changes,
on their plans on October 15th.
right?
One of the things about that is that your clients are going to get these,
Yep.
right? And they're going to say, well, my annual notice of change or my ANOC says that this is going to be the cost of my plan next year. This is what I'm going to pay. Um, we as agents really can't discuss those
No.
until October 1st. So at that point, one of the things you want to do is go ahead and set up a time to meet with your clients
Right, right. And so, or with your agent.
or with your agent.
Right.
Yes.
So some of the things that kind of we're expecting, what we've been advised are changes that will be happening in definitely in our area, which is Austin area, but also over the country. So there's a lot of different moving parts um, to how a plan determines what benefits they have. So whenever you sign up for a Medicare Advantage plan, the you still have to pay your Part B premium, but the government gives the carrier a set amount that's based on the area where you live. It could be socioeconomic, just cost of living, how healthy the population is. So they get an extra monthly stipend, capitated rate. Now, if somebody has a chronic condition such as like diabetes or cardiovascular, they get a little bit more money on that. So
On those plans.
on those plans, right, for those specific plans. So the changes that kind of we're seeing, what we've been advised about, are because of more baby boomers turn 65 each day, this population is also aging. So as we age, our healthcare typically costs a bit more. So the carriers have to work with the dollar amount that they get from Medicare, from the government, and they have to, at minimum, put 89% back of every dollar back into that plan for benefits. So with all of this, the increased cost of healthcare, we're really going to be seeing an increase in copays.
Yes, there's going to be more of a cost sharing on the client side.
Right. And there could be an increase to the maximum out of pocket, which is a combination of all of your costs. So if you have a $50 copay to see a specialist, that is subtracted from your maximum out of pocket, which let's say it's like $7,000, which is pretty standard for our area.
Yeah.
And it could, in other areas, it can be less, it can be more. So that would get subtracted from that overall amount. So then you would have $6,950 left. Now, it's not a guarantee you're going to spend that money.
Right.
That's just, if you happen to hit that in 1 year, then the plan will cover the rest of your medical expenses for that year. Now, it is really hard to hit that.
It is hard unless you have one of those chronic conditions, right? So if you have a chronic condition and you're having a bad year, there are chances that you are going to hit that. Say in a bad year, you're going in and out of the hospital. You're going through treatment for something.
Rehab facilities.
Yes, skilled nursing, chemotherapy. All these things go into it, right? So there might be a possibility to meet that maximum out of pocket. The other thing is, the chances are that if you hit that maximum out of pocket 1 year, the chances do go up the following year that you might hit that max out of pocket again. So that's when it's very important to take into consideration your annual notice of change for your new plan, because you want to make sure that your needs are going to be covered, being whether it's maybe you're on a plan and now you're diagnosed with a chronic condition.
Right.
Maybe this is a chance for you to look at those to kind of cap your costs and get those benefits that you really need.
And I do want to take a moment to say, we're not trying to scare you in terms of, so on national average, there's only about maybe less than 1% of people that actually hit their maximum out of pocket each year. So the chances are very slim. Now, like we said, unless you have one of those chronic condition, like a really common way that I see it is with chemotherapy, because on a lot of plans, not every single one of them, for chemotherapy, it's a 20% coinsurance. And so every time you go into that hospital, you're paying that 20%. Now, it is still important to have a plan that does give you a max. For example, one of my previous clients, he has since unfortunately passed away, but when I met him, he had no drug plan. He just had A and B. Now, with original Medicare Part A and Part B, there's no maximum out of pocket. So you will pay as much as you utilize that service. So every time you go to the doctor, you have chemotherapy, anything like that, you're paying 20%. And those charges are stacked up, one on top of the other. And the only thing that they add to is the total. So while we are explaining this, we don't want to scare you, but this is important to keep an eye out for. And with the many changes that are
rising costs,
it is really important, more so this year than ever, to review that. So additional things that we know are going to change is there's some changes in the Part D standard model, which is just the standard model that the government puts out, Medicare puts out for the most plans can charge for medications.
Right.
So this year, currently in 2025, we saw the elimination of the donut hole.
Exactly.
So, and it put a maximum amount of money or max out of pocket of $2,000 on medication costs, and then the deductible is $590. Now next year, that deductible is going up to $615, and that max is going up to $2,100. Now, what have you seen with people who have quite bit, quite a lot of medications, expensive medications, in terms of out of pocket with this new model?
Um, One of the things that we've seen is, of course, the general concern
Yeah.
that because they're used to paying that huge amount of
Hmm.
8,000 something, and
Right. Previously.
yeah, previously, and having a donut hole, and they were, you know, so this year, since those things are gone, um, the anticipation of how much is this really going to cost me, right? And so the benefit of some of these plans is that if they're on a generic prescription,
Hmm.
one and twos, they're not really paying anything. Or,
Right.
that cost is going to come into where when tiers three, four, and five come in, and now they're having to pay that
Right.
deductible and that um, copay. So
Right.
the big thing that we saw was really let me know how much am I going to pay
Hmm.
in January when I go pick up my prescription. Um,
With these changes, I've seen, of course, this is going to be for my area, the Austin area. I've seen people that have really expensive medications. Now,
mhm,
the important thing is that you're not actually going to be required to pay that $2,000. So you get credit for the total sum of your copays or 25% of the
right,
retail cost. So I've seen it this year being around $800-900 when previously people were spending three plus $5,000 on
right.
medications. So part of why we are discussing this is the the responsibility of the cost of these medications falls on the carrier.
Hmm.
And an increase of from about maybe $3,000 per person to about $8,000 per person. That's what we've seen for this year. But that's paid by the carrier. So that also is going into your medication copays.
Exactly.
Right.
Hmm.
So those are some of the changes that we are really seeing. Um, Now, when you get an annual notice of change, on one side, it'll have the current year. So
Hmm.
when you get it, it'll say, all right, your benefits in 2025
Right.
were this. Then on the other side, if there is a change, it will list what they are.
Exactly.
And so if you see something on your annual notice of change that, concerns you, then it's important to reach out.
Yeah.
And you can reach out to myself, you can reach out to Adela, also if you have an agent.
Hmm.
Um, because you really need someone in your back pocket,
Yeah.
right?
They can
Somebody,
answer these questions for
right?
you.
Because it is an ever-changing landscape, and we are very plugged in to groups that help legislate and lobby the government to help keep these costs low for you. And so we receive quite a bit of education on this.
Hmm.
So what can people do if they see the changes and like, it's okay?
Well, then they can stay where they're at.
Yeah.
We always advise people to take a look at what's available in your area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we talked about earlier, right? Where maybe this year they were diagnosed with something chronic. Take a look at those plans. Take a look at, another thing that on their annual notice of change is if they have a plan exiting. Their
Yeah.
plan is not available
Mm-hmm.
is not going to be available next year. It'll let them know,
Mm-hmm.
this plan will not be available. It'll also say reach out to whatever carrier.
And then it also explains what your
Mhm,
options are.
what your options are. And so those are instances where you can say, hey, I really like my plan. Can you find me something
That's
comparable?
right.
Right? But going back to the medication part or the changes, if they are, if the plan worked for them and the plan is still available next
Mm-hmm.
year, but they're really concerned,
Mm-hmm.
but you say, like you mentioned, what if they're satisfied? What if the cost was not a big deal and the new perceived changes are not going to be a big deal? Then that's great.
Yeah.
You can still go over stuff with them. But if it's not, then they have options, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
listed. There'll be options listed as to new routes that they can take. Um,
And
but
also,
go ahead.
different plans, even within the same carrier, can have different formularies.
Exactly.
And those formularies change each year. They can change each year. Most likely they will. So
Yes.
what are some of those changes? I know we have maybe sometimes we have different medications that are added. So each formulary is not required to cover the same medications. What are they required to cover?
They are required to cover most of the medications within certain groups, right? But that's why, and I don't want to keep going back to this, but this is an important one. If you were diagnosed with something and you can go to a chronic plan, there's specific medications that are in that group for those certain conditions that have.
Can you explain kind of what a chronic plan is?
Yes, a chronic plan is for people who are being treated for cardiovascular disorders, right? Diabetes, congestive heart failure, things like that.
Some areas we have COPD. So always check to see what is going to be available in your area.
Yes.
In the Austin area, we have diabetes, congestive heart failure, cardiovascular, and those pulmonary
in some plans,
and kidney failure.
So, you want to take a look at those because some of those are going to give you the option to get these medications at a lower cost. So, and then not saying that they won't be on another plan, but they're
They'd be better
priced,
yes,
and or in a different tier, right? So they'll be better priced. Or maybe not covered under one plan, but they'll be covered under the chronic plan.
Right.
So those are things to look at.
In terms of tier shifts, so there are some medications that we see that are generic. Like a good example is albuterol.
Yeah.
So albuterol is a generic inhaler, but depending on the carrier, it could be priced as a tier 2. So the tier 1 is your preferred brand name, tier 2 is non-preferred brand name, 3 is preferred brand name, 4 is non-preferred, 5 is specialty. So what we see on a lot of carriers is, with a lot of plans, is that albuterol is priced at a tier 3. So those are some of the other things that really you need to be taking into consideration, and that's not something that your annual notice of change will cover.
Right.
They're not going to, it's not personalized specifically for you. They're not going to send it out and say, hey, these are your medications. This is what you'll be paying for them next year.
Right.
And then for the tiers, they on your annual notice of change, it will list, all right, these are the copays. But how can the copays differ for medications based on the total cost? So when we're looking at these changes, these transition changes in shifting tiers of your medications, sometimes, not in all, but let's say your copay for a 3-month supply of a brand name medication is $150, but that medication only may cost $70. In that example, you would most likely can always change, right? Pay for that total cost and not that full copay. So these are things that your annual notice of change is not going to cover, and why it's important to come in and talk to somebody who we can price out your medications and make sure that everything is going to be good. So if you're happy with your plan and you don't want to change next year, that's okay. However, it is still important, even more important year after year, to make sure to price your medications and to see if there's any changes. Going back to how the carriers determine what benefits they have on the plan. Remember, we said they get a certain amount of money from Medicare, and then based on what they get, and the 89% that they put back in with the increasing costs, what are some of the areas where we may see fluctuations?
One of the things is we'll see a fluctuation in benefits, the ancillary benefits, meaning all those extras they get, right?
Could you give an example of those?
Sure. So, one of the big benefits that people in our area always look at is dental and vision, right? So you could see a fluctuation of maybe an increase or a decrease in your dental benefit, your vision, your
increase
hearing.
In one, decrease in the other.
Exactly. And, plan carriers take all this information, right? into account when they're planning for the new year as to where are they going to put some of these extras
And
in.
what's the current utilization,
Right.
right? So who is how
Mm-hmm.
much of the members, the member base is actually using it?
Exactly. And so they may say, okay, we found that maybe people weren't using so much vision. So we're going to take a little bit out of the vision and we'll put it more in the dental.
Right.
Or, maybe we'll increase transportation on some plans.
Right.
Or maybe that wasn't utilized, so we'll decrease it.
All of these may or may not be available in your area.
Right. And so if we're looking at some of our special needs plans or dual plans.
Could you give it? So the special needs plans, those are the
chronic plans, right?
With the dual
is your Medicare, Medicaid eligibles.
Okay.
Right. So we have, and not to get too much into the weeds, but we have our full duals, people who are on full Medicaid, and then we have our partial duals.
Right.
And
there are levels.
Yes, in certain levels. So that may be that this year there'll be changes in those, right? So
and each state is different.
Every state is different, and every area is different,
in terms of qualifying.
Right. And also in the benefits part, right? So the full Medicaid people might get a higher benefit than your partials. Right. And they might be one plan or two plans or three plans. It all depends. So it's very important to pay attention to that annual notice of change as to those new benefits for the following year.
Well, as we wrap up, so we mentioned at the very start that you can make these changes. We can start talking about them October 1st.
October 1st.
You can make any changes, submit applications on October 15th. And then you have until December 7th at 11:59 p.m. However, please don't wait that long.
No.
Please don't wait that long at all. And then at this point, when you check every single piece of mail or anything, complaint communications that come to you, because you don't want to miss that annual notice to change. As soon as it arrives, look at it, and then make an appointment with your agent or one of us.
Yes.
And also something that I want you to keep in mind, Medicare Advantage plans, they go by county.
Yes.
So if you live in one county and your friend lives in another, or family, even within the same state, and they get their annual notice of change and you like their plan, that plan may not be available.
Exactly.
So it is all relative. And another thing that we see a lot is people saying, I talked to my friend, I talked to my family, whatever. What would you say to people that say, this is what they told me?
A lot of times I'll say, well, I'm glad that you have somebody who is
of course
trying to tell you the changes. But it's very important to meet with somebody who does this
and knows your
every day, knows your specific area, your specific plan, to make sure that you're getting the right information.
Yeah.
Because there's so much information that's being thrown at people every day.
Right.
They're being called.
Which we're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Cold call.
You're not allowed to cold call. So if you get a cold call, you can feel free to hang up. Right. But they're also getting information off the TV. They might be visiting, somebody in San Antonio. Well, San Antonio's market is completely different than Austin's.
Right.
And so they may also not know that their friend or family member is maybe on a special needs plan.
Right.
Or is maybe on a PPO and they have an HMO, or they're on a dual and they're not on a dual plan, right? So plans are very different. So when people say, I know because I'm getting so much money in my over-the-counter every month, I want that plan. Well, that plan may not be available in your area, or maybe that plan may not be available to you because maybe you don't meet the criteria for that said plan. So it's very important to meet with somebody who has the certification, has the knowledge, has the access to all those plans to be able to say, okay, It sounds like they're in a totally different plan than you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go through such extensive training and certifications and constant recertifications
Right.
with um, every carrier, and we have to do our annual certification and then do the carrier certifications, and then constant training to make sure that we have all the up-to-date
Right.
information.
And we can give that information to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just a reminder, this isn't legal advice or tax advice. It's just
Right.
educational.
Mm-hmm.
And everything will we're talking in blanket statements because some things are going to be true in others, like Adela said, not in others. But I do want to thank you for your time. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah. And so how can people get in touch with you? And can you share a little bit about your focus?
Well, my focus is mainly in the Medicare space, but we do offer other product lines. But we have our office here in Cedar Park. We're at 1150 South Bell Boulevard, Building 5 in Cedar Park. And then our mainline phone number is 512-354-7661. And you can just reach out to us or stop by and say hi. I am a veteran, so we are.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
In the Marines.
I'm a Marine Corps veteran. Our office is inside a Veteran Resource Center, which is Heroes Resource Center. So we do specialize in veteran plans and ensuring that our veterans have access to outside care, outside maybe the VA.
Right. And you also help connect the VA doctors with their outside doctors.
Absolutely.
That's something really.
So we ensure that veterans are the only segment of the population that can have dual coverage. So we ensure that we can help them by getting their services that they need, but being able to communicate that to their inside doctor.
Yeah, I'm getting that information shared.
Yeah.
And then you can always reach out to me. My name is Mackenzie Anderson. And at this office in Cedar Park that Adela mentioned, there's also an office in Taylor, Texas. It is 602 West 12th Street. I'm Suite 102. And you can give me a call at 512-599-9527. And just wanted to say thank you for joining us on another episode of Medicare Matters with Mackenzie. We got the alliteration down. And keep an eye out on your mailbox, email inbox, and online. And we'll always be here to help you. And if you speak Spanish.
Sí, hablamos su idioma también.
See what she said. All righty. Well, thank you all again. And we'll see you next time. And also be sure to check out my monthly installment on CBS We Are Austin. It's called Medicare Mondays with Mackenzie. So check that out for some great advice and some fun times. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Medicare Matters podcast with Mackenzie. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Please also leave a review, as that helps me reach more people that can benefit from this podcast content. If you have questions or topics that you want me to cover for a future episode, please email them to Mackenzie@premiermedicaresolutions.com.